Big Game James Allen with a busy weekend as well from the Times Union. Joins us every Friday morning on Big Board Sports to talk high school sports and in particular high school basketball. Good morning, Big Game.
Morning, Roger.
Thanks for a few minutes, Big Game. Let's start with the team that we gave a lot of hype to in the AA ranks that got a lot of play last week in Bethlehem last Saturday night in Glens Falls. Took down the top seed in Colony to win their first AA championship since 1972 under head coach A.G. Irons, who certainly is up for Coach of the Year from News Channel 13. That is for sure. In fact, we don't need any drama on this. He is the Coach of the Year for News Channel 13 and will be honored in an upcoming banquet in April at the Glenn Sanders out in Scotia. But Big Game, let's talk about Bethlehem. What road does this team have, and what are their chances of winning a couple of games after winning the AA in Section 2?
Well, their next opponent Saturday is Liverpool, a team that really picked up their play in the second half of the year, Roger. They started the season out, they were 0-3. They lost to Bishop Kearney, who was the Rochester team. They also lost to University Prep, which is a team that's been state ranked all year long. So they've really done a nice job. They were 2-4 after 6 games. So they're 18-5 now, so they've certainly resurrected their season. They beat Henninger to win the championship. They're a team that, I think, style-wise, a little different than Bethlehem, but in terms of ability, I think they're pretty close to each other. I think you could make a case maybe Liverpool, maybe a little deeper, but Bethlehem's on a nice roll, and this is going to be a big spot for them. I mean, this is their first state playoff game back in 1972 when they won the class, which was then the Class A title. There was no AA. There was no state playoff, so there was no reward after you won the section. So this is their first opportunity. I know those guys are looking forward to it, and this is a big spot for them.
It is, and it's a Bethlehem team. If you haven't seen them play, it's like it's not one guy, it's not two guys, it's not three. I mean, they have a lot of guys and different guys, Big Game, that have stepped up on different nights to get this team as successful as they have been all season long.
No question, and they're going to need all those guys to step forward. This is a game that when you get into this spot the first time, the atmosphere is a little different, and it's on the road, it's out there, it's going to be in their section, so they're going to have a lot of their fans there, and it's going to be imperative for them to stay out of foul trouble. That's so often when you get to this round for our Section 2 teams, whether they win or lose, more often than not, they find themselves in foul trouble pretty early, so it's going to be incumbent upon their starters to stay on the floor and not to upset the rotation from that perspective. If they can do that, then they've got to definitely have a shot.
Over on the girls' side, two teams that I think can make some runs here. Tell me if I'm correct. And one would be this Averill Park team under Sean Organ. They captured their 4th straight Section 2 Class A girls basketball championship with a lopsided win over Amsterdam. And then a Shen team that, I don't know, at the beginning of the year, many people thought they would be this good, but, Cameron Tooley and Tudor have really turned out to be outstanding players. They've come together nicely here under Coach Murphy. How about those two teams on the girls' side making some deep runs?
Well, it's interesting, Roger, when you start with Shen, and, not only did they graduate 8 seniors from a team that got to the state final and was right there to win it all, they lost their best returning player in Sidney Brown, who decided to attend Blair Academy. So you take a player that's averaging a double-double out of the mix that you expected to have. So I think that's where, outside of their program, a lot of people kind of looked at them and said, well, kind of rebuilding year. Maybe next year they'll be really good. They got a lot of young players. But the two players you mentioned, Cameron Tooley, the point guard, and Alexander Tudor, the shooting guard, they basically said, no, we're not going to accept that. And they really did a good job not only elevating their games because they came in more prominent roles, on the court themselves, but they also led a group that a lot of them came up from the JV and didn't have any varsity experience. Not exactly an easy league to kind of formulate a growing process in the Suburban Council when you're playing some of the best teams in the state on a nightly basis, and they did a really good job. They wound up being the number 2 seed, and then they knocked off a team that had beat them in the regular season in the championship in Shaker, and they're feeling very confident. Now, normally when they play to this round, they usually play Cicero, North Syracuse. They are not. They're playing West Genesee, who won their first championship in 25 years. So you got a program that is feeling really good about themselves in West Genesee that feels like, hey, we can do some damage this year. And Shen's first big road test of the year is going to be a tough one in Section 3.
How about Sean Organ and the team he has at Averill Park this year?
Well, it's the same opponent that they've dealt with the last 4 years, and it's a team they haven't been able to beat. It's Janesville DeWitt. Janesville DeWitt won the state championship last year. They have some of those players back, including Meg Hare, who's their top player. Jim Boeheim's daughter is one of the top players on the team as well, and they're very well coached. They're top 3 in the state. They tested themselves outside the league. And one of their losses, interestingly enough, this season was to Shen. Shen played them out there and beat them by 5. And Averill Park did not do particularly well against Shen this year, but that was early in the season. They played early in December. So they certainly, Averill Park has a blueprint. And Sean Organ knows all about this team. He knows what they're going to have to do. And, he said, quite frankly, with me Wednesday after they beat Messina, he said, look, we played the way we did in the first half of this game against them. We're in big trouble. They're going to have to raise their level. They did not play a particularly great game against Messina. They got by a team they should have gotten by, and they shot 25% in the first half and yet had a double-digit lead. And they've had a great run against Class A teams this year. They've won all their games by 20 or more, but this is a different animal. It's going to be a big test for them and a big hurdle they haven't been able to get over. So the last 3 years, they've lost all 3 times to JD. If they can pull this off, they got a legit shot to get to the state final. But this is going to be a big opportunity, and certainly they're coming in as an underdog. They understand that, and I think they could definitely give them a game. It's just going to be, can they perform at the level on offense they need to pull off the upset.
And as you wrote this morning in item 1 of your top 5, 9 out of the 10 sectional champions remain alive for the state quarterfinal play on Saturday. Big game. Enjoy the weekend, and we wish our local teams great success this weekend, taking that next step to try to win a state championship.
Well, when we talk next week, it'll be Final Four, and we'll be gearing up for some. I would think we're going to have some teams left. I can't imagine all 9 of our teams would lose, but we'll see how many we have surviving in the next weekend.
Thank you, Big Game James Allen, every Friday here on Big Board Sports as we talk high school sports here on 104.5 The Team, ESPN Radio.